authentic speaker. So let me begin with a quick disclaimer that she has no idea what I am going to say, but she has trusted me enough to hold this space with you all tonight. And I share this because I know her, not just as a physician, but as someone who has walked alongside me in my health journey, but also as a dear friend who I value tremendously. So I've been under the care of Dr. Brianne Standifer-Barrett for over 20 years, formally since around 2018. And I can say without hesitation that her passion for medicine and people has always been evident. So I am one of her day ones. Even during her time in the Charles Drew Science Scholars Program at Michigan State University, which supports students historically underrepresented in science and math, she was already laying the foundation for the kind of physician that she is today. She is intentional, committed, and deeply rooted in purpose. Dr. Brianne Standifer-Barrett, MD, MSCP, is a board certified internal medicine physician and menopause specialist based in Southfield, Michigan. Her work is grounded in accessibility through community outreach like this, health coaching, patient education, and she centers care that truly sees the whole person. She listens deeply. She partners with her patients. She develops a care plan that prioritizes long term health, sustainability, and overall well being. She offers both virtual and also in office visits because she meets people where they are. So she is intentional, committed, and deeply rooted in purpose. Now, the title of tonight's session, Me First, Then Everybody Else, Crisis in the Prime, Women's Health, age 35 through 55, tells us everything that we need to know. This is not just a conversation, but it is a call to action. It is a reminder that in the midst of caring for everything and everyone else, we must also care for ourselves with urgency and intention. This lifts up what I know about her. She is intentional, committed, and deeply rooted in purpose. And if I can share just a glimpse of what it means to be her patient. When Dr. Standifer-Barrett walks into the room, she looks you in the eye. She verbally greets you. She washes her hands. She takes a seat and she asks, "How are you? What brings you in today?" She is never rushed. She is fully present. And as you speak, you can see her starting to think. She's processing, she's connecting, and she's responding with care and precision. She is intentional, committed, and deeply rooted in purpose. She challenges you, she holds you accountable. And I can recall when she gave me an 18-month goal, and she did not sugarcoat it. But I leaned in, I trusted the process, and today I can honestly say that I am healthier because of her care. In fact, I keep a running note in my phone. I track dates, symptoms, blood pressure readings so that I can show up prepared. Because when you have a physician who is invested in you, you show up differently. So tonight, I invite each of you to lean into the knowledge, lean into the truth, the responsibility that we each have to prioritize our health unapologetically. Because if we're not well, we cannot fully show up for anyone else. So it is my absolute pleasure and honor to introduce to some and to present to others Dr. Brianne Standifer-Barrett.
All right. Thank you, Chandra, or shall I say Dr. Marshall. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And she's right, y'all. I had no idea what she was going to say. I just knew you had to hear from her because she is one of my first patients. I would even argue, yeah, back since 2006, I've been providing her care before I even had a license. So thank you, Chandra, for your beautiful introduction. I really, really appreciate it. And to everybody here, thank you so much for spending this evening with me. I'm not going to take up too much of y'all time. I just had to get on. I had to do something. I had to say something. God called me to move on this immediately when I came back from vacation. So I'm going to kick it off. And I'm just gonna ask some questions. And there's a chat here in the bottom, and I want to start off by just saying I want you to be honest with yourself. This is a safe space. And my first question for you, and you can drop a one if it relates to you in the chat before I get started with my actual talk. But do you feel stressed more days than not? I want you to drop a one in the chat if that is something that relates to you. Do you feel stressed more days than not? Put a thumb, a one, a heart, anything so I know kind of who I'm talking to today. Got a lot of thumbs. Yes, yes. Ones, thumbs. Okay. So then my next question is, do you feel overwhelmed, overworked, or responsible for everybody? Give me another thumb or one in the chat box if this is something that relates to you. Yep. Yep. Okay. Okay. Is there no space for you to just be? Another. Drop a one or a thumb in the chat for me, y'all. Good. Yep. Yep. Next question. Do you have a safe space where you can just be vulnerable, truly vulnerable? Drop a one if you have a space. If you don't have a space, drop a two. I'm curious. Yep. Lots of ones. Okay. Okay. Then my next question for you guys is this. As life demands go up, do you feel overwhelmed because the demands never stop, no matter how much you do? Drop a one if that is something that resonates with you. Yep. Overwhelmed. Demands never stop. The to do list never ends. You finish one thing and then there's another thing popping up for you to address. Do you feel that way? Drop a one. Yep. Okay. Do you feel exhausted? I'm talking bone tired in a way that sleep alone won't fix. Give me a one or a thumb or both. Yep. Okay. My final question. Do you feel like you're carrying everything for everyone with no one truly carrying you? Drop a one if you feel this way. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I want to take a second. I want everybody in this space because we have about 23 people. I think about 150 people registered, but we're going to work with what we got today because I want to get this message out. So I want y'all to number one, look at the public chat here and see that you're not alone. I think that's the number one piece that I want to get at. The first thing, you're not alone. Everybody is feeling this way. And I know that because I'm a primary care doctor, as Dr. Marshall told y'all, and I think I'm a caregiver for most of y'all on here too. Every time people come into the office, they say the same things, that they're stressed, they're overwhelmed, whether it be a job, whether it be they're a caregiver, whether it be parenthood, whether they're in a sandwich population where they're caring for their parents and they're caring for their own children while trying to figure themselves out. I'm hearing the same type of presentation from every single person. So I say that to say, I want y'all to know you're not alone. That's the first thing. The second thing is, and what prompted this talk. So I took a vacation. At the end of March, and I came back April 3rd, the week of April 3rd. My first day back, my first day back, I saw 4 heart attacks. Each of those heart attacks were in women under the age of 50. I don't think I've ever felt so overwhelmed in my life as a doctor, right? Because if y'all can imagine, we get only so much time to talk to y'all in the office. And when you come in, we do the best we can, but this is kind of what it is. So I saw 4 heart attacks for which I had to then send to the ER. Okay. All women under 50. The one thing that each woman had in common was that A, they were under 50. B, none of them had your typical risk factors for heart attack. I think the big misnomer that we see in our population, and I hear from patients, is that on TV, we see a heart attack, chest pain, like that. That's not how they always present, especially in women. They present with indigestion, feeling like you have gas, etc. But the most interesting thing, and two of the women that I saw, as I'm telling them that I believe they're having a heart attack after we did an EKG, etc., they ended up themselves finding out that while they're sitting there with me trying to get everything taken care of, that they're trying to still work. So one person actually had their work computer in the office. I'm telling her she has a heart attack. We got to send her to the ER. She's working while I'm telling her this information. Paramedics are coming in. She's still emailing. She's still working as we're talking about this heart attack that she's experiencing, right? And it baffled me because I was like, we, even in the midst of us feeling bad and being the most critical, we're still working, we're still giving ourselves to something else. Now I get it, we got to get the bag, you got to pay your bills, I get that, but to what end? You know what I mean? That was the first person. The second person, during her heart attack, I'm telling her, hey, we have to send you to the ER. She understands. And at the same time, she's trying to coordinate for another loved one that's not with her, who's going to pick up like a grandparent from somewhere. And I hear her on the phone saying, hey, I'm having a heart attack. Dr. Standifer wants me to go to the ER. She's on the phone, and the other person on the other end is still asking her for stuff. So what are you going to make for dinner? So are you going to be able to go to Target to get my pickup or whatever? So she's still trying to coordinate, and as she's telling people she needs help, she still can't get it in the midst of an active heart attack. It was the most unreal thing I've ever experienced in my medical career. And after that day, I felt so frustrated. And in my job, there are so many barriers to providing good care for patients, between navigating insurance, between navigating your jobs, FMLA, et cetera, et cetera. There are all these different barriers that we experience. And as a result, I just felt like I had to do something. And that's why I wanted to have this talk. I wanted to have this talk because I saw how community responded to you being sick. I saw it in real time. I see how your job responds to y'all being sick. I'll write somebody off. The job doesn't care. I'm sending paperwork after paperwork. The job doesn't care. And trust me, when you get sick, your job will find a replacement for you. I'm seeing it happen in real time. So I bring this conversation up because it's very critical. Now, stress, I'm considering myself a stress expert. I've been studying stress rapidly. And I think most people believe that when we think about heart attacks, because we're going to talk about heart attacks today, and I'm going to do these webinars quarterly where we can talk about some of the things I'm seeing to help prevent them in the offices and the hospital. So, one of the things that I've noticed and people don't really understand, we talk about stress. So, when we talk about stress, everybody is fixated on cortisol. Cortisol is the thing that everybody is big on. But when we talk about stress, we leave out some other changes that also start to happen. When you're stressed, cortisol goes up, yes, but also your sympathetic nervous system. So noradrenaline, epinephrine, the sympathetic nervous system starts to go up. So you have two processes happening, both hormonal and both having different effects in different areas. So I'm gonna ask another question for y'all, and I want you to drop another one in the chat. Did y'all know that separate from having heart attack, or excuse me, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, that you can still have a stress induced heart attack? Drop a one if you knew you can have a stress induced heart attack just purely from having stress. Yep. So we got a couple twos, we got a bunch of ones. Yes. There is a condition called stress induced cardiomyopathy, and I have been studying it like crazy because what happens that I see when my ladies come in, and if they have certain conditions, I have different protocols that I develop that I follow. I like to get a stress test to understand people's baseline. So, what I've been seeing in the office is that, and particularly in this population of 35 to 55, is that women come in, will do a stress test. You do a stress test, it's negative. Let's say you did a stress test, it's negative in 2025. Stress test being negative means that there's a less chance of maybe a heart attack happening at that time. The problem with stress and with cortisol elevation in the sympathetic nervous system, when cortisol is high for a long period of time, what it's doing is it's causing a bunch of different things to happen. It's causing your cholesterol to go up. It's causing, so inside of your blood vessels that give blood flow to the heart, they're called coronary vessels. Those vessels are very, very small. Those vessels, they are lined with the inner layer of the vessel is called an endothelium layer. That layer, when cortisol is high, gets destroyed. Whenever you have a destruction of any artery in the body tries its best to heal that area through a plaque or a buildup. It tries to form a scab like you would if you cut yourself, but this happens inside of the heart artery. So when your stress levels are very, very high, you build up more plaque or buildup in the heart arteries, independent of having high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol. Just the stress phenomenon alone causes this. So a lot of times these symptoms can get overlooked because maybe that same person can exercise fine without a problem, but their stress is what's causing this buildup to form quickly. It also causes inflammation. I know we drop this word a lot, but when we talk about inflammation, that's more cells in the body that then further destroy that endothelium or artery layer in the blood vessels. So my thought process is that we need to work on lowering our stress. I promise you. I know a lot of us come in, I see women in the office, and the first thing that they say is, Doc, I get my hair done, I get my nails done, I'm managing my stress in that way. And I think we got it all messed up and wrong. I really do. My job is extremely stressful, and I alone have had to learn different strategies to reduce my stress because I watch my blood pressure, I watch different things so I can understand what's going on with my body, so to speak. So, one of the things that we have to talk about too in this population, I call it the critical window. So, between the ages of 35 and 55, I deem as a critical window. And the reason is because in women during that age range, most of them are probably starting or in the middle of perimenopause, if not menopausal. So if you can imagine, you have this cascade of stress already causing heart, blood vessel plaque buildup. And then when you look at the perimenopause hormonal transition, that process alone is also causing a similar phenomenon. So your arteries or blood vessels become more stiff. They're not as flexible as normal. So you already have that cascade happening. The loss of estrogen over time through the perimenopause transition also causes your cholesterol to go up. So now you have these phenomena happening at the same time. And I believe that's why I'm seeing more heart attacks and strokes in younger women. In fact, I argue right now in my patient panel, my older patients, meaning greater than 70, are a lot healthier right now than my younger patients. And what I'm seeing is a lot of us are professional women. We're doing all the things. We're sitting on 1,000 boards. Maybe we're in school for a degree while working simultaneously while caring for a family. All these different roles and hats that we wear, I believe, without proper rest and stress reduction, are leading to early demise, in my opinion. And that's why I wanted to call this crisis in the prime because I'm seeing it in real time and it's insane. It's insane. And when y'all come in, people rely too much on insurance. Insurance is not here to save y'all. We have to take control ourselves, is what I'm trying to say. In my opinion, as time goes on, insurance is going to start covering less. Access to doctors is going to reduce. So we have to take care of ourselves. We really, really do. The second thing we think about too, if you can imagine, like I said, the heart arteries are very, very narrow. The same process that happens in the heart is happening in the brain. So when women go about this type of lifestyle, the brain vessels are also very, very narrow. That same plaque buildup that builds up in the heart builds up in the brain. And when blood flow can't get to tissue in the brain cells die. We also now know and understand that when stress levels are high, especially chronically, that that can also break down very important areas in the brain. Number one, the hippocampus. That is your learning and memory area of the brain. When you're under chronic stress, you're killing your memory cells in the most literal sense. Why? Because that area has a high amount of glucocorticoid, which means that's the receptor that accepts the cortisol uh, enzyme, if you will, or hormone, if you will. And as a result, when something's constantly stimulated, you can kill or cause brain tissue to die. The other area that's affected is the prefrontal cortex. And y'all, some of y'all know me, but I'm really a science girl, like through and through. Your prefrontal cortex is where you do all your rational thinking. All of your logical rational thinking happens in the prefrontal cortex. This is the second area that is very highly under demise when stress is high in the chronic setting. The third area we now know is the amygdala, and that's kind of like your emotional regulation area in the brain. These three areas, under chronic stress, you lose brain activity. And if you look at a lot of different studies, when people are under chronic stress for long periods of time, they lose brain volume. And so when we look at these different CTs over time in people, you see the brain volume is lost. That can also lead to more Alzheimer's, more dementia, more cognitive decline, etc. So again, we got the stress effect in the heart and the brain. And I think most of us don't really plan to develop dementia and Alzheimer's when we get older. We don't. We want to live the healthiest life as we can as we age. And I know a lot of us focus on, different things, my vitamins, my this, my that, but we're not taking the full good assessment of ourselves. And I'm seeing it in real time in the office. Like, it's insane the amount of heart attacks I've seen just in this quarter. It's also insane that the amount of people I've taken off of work for stress, whether it's a job, whether it's whatever. And so this is my call to action, that we must check in with ourselves. Now, I brought y'all a lot of problems, so I want to offer some solutions too. So, one of the things that I find works really, really well to help calm down our nervous system is box breathing. I don't know if you guys said you could pull up a YouTube video, but you do the box breathing where you take a deep breath for 4, hold it for 4, blow out for 4. Doing that in your stressful situation. The other thing that I found that helps me, and I'm gonna tell you some things that I do. I do box breathing when I'm at work. The other thing that I do is these notifications, the notifications from our cell phones, from our smart watches. Does anybody in here wear a smartwatch all day? Like, put a one in the chat if you have a smartwatch, either a Samsung or whatever, a smartwatch that you receive notifications on all day, from calls, text messages, emails, Facebook alerts, etc. Do y'all also, people wear that, and I see them in the office. I argue that that's a stressor. I think there's a time and a place. Obviously, if you're caring for someone, you got to get a call. I get that, but that's another strategy, because you don't need to respond immediately. A lot of these texts we get, they don't require an immediate response. Yet we're getting so much input at one time that we're being overstimulated. So that's another thought. I stopped wearing my Apple Watch because of that. I noticed that that was something that was making me personally not feel the best. The other thing is, when you are stressed, removing yourself from the situation. And my job, when things get really, really tense, I take 5 minutes, I step away. Even though I have a full day of patience, if my mind not right, I can't be the best person for the people I care for. People expect me to come in and show up. And if I'm not myself, I can't be the best version of me to give to y'all. So I remove myself from the situation. I'm also really, really big on meditation, mindful meditation. There's a free, the Headspace app is also a really good app to use to kind of help recalibrate your nervous system, because that's what's happening. We're not stopping enough. And then when we do stop, what are we doing? We got these phones. It's 2026. If you want to start a business right now, you could do it all from your phone in 10 minutes. And although that's a nice thing that we have, a nice opportunity, what's starting to happen is that it's causing us to be more overloaded, because we can do things faster, quicker, showing up on social media, showing up in other places, but it's causing us to I'm seeing it clinically wear us out. I really am. I'm starting more women on high blood pressure medication than I ever have. And if you know me, I'm not a person that likes to just jump to a pill. I like to try to do lifestyle management. But the way that our jobs and our lifestyles are causing these changes, I'm seeing it in real time clinically. So I argue too that we need to also work on checking our blood pressure. Some people come into the office and the first thing that they do is that they assume that the pressure that we're getting in the office is sufficient, but you should really be checking your blood pressure at home and coming in with an actual log. Okay. So I did want to leave some space for some questions. Like I said, I'm not gonna hold y'all all night, but I had to do this. It was on my heart. God told me I need to shine a light on what's going on and what I'm seeing clinically. As a doc, it's my job to care for people, yes, in the office, but I do my best work in the community. So do y'all have any questions? It's an open forum, it's a safe space. You can drop it in the chat and I can read it aloud. That'll work too. Any questions, any thoughts, any suggestions. Again, it's an open forum. And as I'm giving y'all a second to load up some questions, exercise. Yep. So Ty said exercise. Exercise is a big one. The reason I didn't bring up exercise at first is because I know for some people, exercise, especially if we're not well rested, can also do more detriment than harm. Do you know what I mean? Like if you are already barely getting sleep, you're barely getting through your day because you're overwhelmed, you got a lot of things on your plate. This is something that I find can sometimes be a detriment. Now, should you just take a 5-minute break from whatever you're doing and go for a walk? Absolutely. But I think when we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to exercise, we're already very, very tired and our sympathetic nervous system is going crazy. For the right person, that might not be the best move initially. Okay. All right. I also wanted to share on her, y'all, because of the line of work that I do. I developed it's a health record. It's a health record planner. And what I find in primary care as a primary care internist is my job, and I'm like your quarterback to understand, so you understand where to go, what doctors you see, etc. So I did develop a health record book where you can track your blood pressure, track your mammograms, track your colonoscopies, track everything, and have it in one space. Because people rely too much on the computers, and when we experienced a cyber attack last year, it was insane. So there is a link up here that says grab yours. You can click that if you're interested. Share it with a friend. So let's get back to these questions. So hold on, let me come up. Am I accepting new patients? I'm not at my current employer, but I will be I'm going private practice next year in Farmington Hills, and I will be accepting new patients at my new office. We're set to open in the fall. And if you click this website, it'll also take you to a private practice interest Google form. So for those that are interested, you can fill out the form and log in and put your information, and we'll be calling patients next April to be scheduled at the new office. So that'll be going down next fall. All right. Even if I'm using it to track my steps as part of my exercise. So maybe then for that, maybe turn the notifications off of so that way you're not getting dinged all day. So I know you can like turn it on focus or a do not disturb setting so you can still track your steps. But that's a really good point. But I would just the point is to just reduce the notifications. And then let's see here. Awesome. I'm loving this. Y'all, I just love y'all. And I really appreciate y'all again spending time with me because I'm talking about nobody likes health. Like Chris Brown and Usher posted a concert. Everybody love that. But when I want to talk about heart stuff and saving y'all people's lives, that's hard and it's not as sexy. So thank y'all for y'all time and being here right now. So let's see. So someone wants to know a little bit more insight into cortisol. I've just bought a supplement that's supposed to help offset it. So there is some thought that ashwagandha is supposed to help lower cortisol. But in my opinion, yes, it's been shown to help in some ways. But in my true opinion, you get your biggest bang for your buck by reducing your stressors. There are different conditions like Cushing syndrome, where you actually have a condition that shoots out cortisol in an aberrant way. But if you don't have Cushing syndrome and your cortisol is high because you got too much going on, in my opinion, reduce what you got going on and focus back on yourself. Okay. Yep, I'm learning to say no and not to overextend myself. Just because I can doesn't mean I should. But people don't understand when you say no. That is so true. Do y'all feel guilty when you say no? Like if you say no, Do you realize no is a complete sentence? Like, do you go back and say, "Oh man, I should have said yes. They're gonna be mad at me." Do y'all feel that way? Do you carry that good? I'm just curious. You could put it in the chat. Oh, thank you. Yep. What can I do to reduce inflammation? Yep. So number one, reducing the stress, but for less obvious reasons. The other things that you could do are diet. A lot of times, the things that we eat, and I'm real big on reducing the amount of processed food that you eat, reducing the amount of like our body, whenever we eat processed food and food that's not the best for us, our body reacts to it because it doesn't know what to do with this. And that in and of itself can cause high levels of inflammation. And inflammation destroys those blood vessels. Remember, I was telling you about that. Another tool, and people I know feel their way about it, that I think is very, very helpful for women. And again, this isn't medical advice, this is just us talking, is the GLP-1s. I love the Wegovy's, I love the Zepbounds. Those are also found to help reduce inflammation as well. And I'm actually developing a protocol for women right now where we use GLP-1 microdosing. So maybe you're not taking a very high dose, but maybe a very low dose less frequently to reduce inflammation. Because also, when you go through menopause and perimenopause, that transition alone can also increase inflammation too. So, if you mix that again with stress and everything else, you got this big cascade of craziness. So that's something that I think is really really underutilized too. So the GLP-1s, and we just don't talk about them enough. And I think some of them get a really bad rap because you see people with the bobblehead look and they don't want to do that. But I think we have to be where we are. And the other part, my other thought process is a lot of people come in and they want to be natural. But I always say there is nothing natural about the way that we live. The way that we live is so unnatural. We're indoors all day. We're not exposed to good whole foods. The demands on us are insane. This is not how we're supposed to be living. We're supposed to be outside in the grass, in the water, being communal, but we're not. We're on our phones and we're indoors. So we have to look at where we are and what we're doing and try to reverse our lifestyle too. Okay, awesome. Confirmation, yep. Surgically induced menopause, high blood pressure, inflammation. Exactly. Yes, 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 yes. All right. What's your top three black girl vitamin stack? So because Tori and I have a special relationship. But I love the one a day. I think every woman needs a one a day, a multivitamin one a day, and that's because a lot of the vitamins in the one a day are your essential vitamins, so your body can't make them. So you do need to get them either through diet or through supplementation. So one a day for sure. I'm really big on collagen, y'all. Like as we start to age, again, I'm a menopause doctor, so I'm gonna keep talking about menopause. As we start to age too, we do start to lose collagen inherently in our joints, our cartilage, etc. So I think cartilage is something that's being studied, that's really really big and key. And then vitamin D. Vitamin D, oh my gosh. So we talk about inflammation. There are some studies that suggest vitamin D. Most of us, every woman I take care of comes in low with vitamin D. I'm giving vitamin D left and right in my office because most of us are low because you get it from the sun. We're indoors all day, hence we're mostly deficient. And black women need to be out in the sun at least 2 to 3 times longer than non-black women to get the same amount of vitamin D absorption. So we also are not outside long enough to get enough vitamin D. So those are my three favorites. I would say the one a day, the vitamin D, and then the collagen. Another area too when we talk about stress reduction is magnesium glycinate. Now, y'all know I do work with Black Girl Vitamins, so of course I love their products. The magnesium that we have on Black Girl Vitamins is magnesium citrate. The magnesium that you need is going to be magnesium glycinate. Glycinate helps to reduce some muscle tension and stress between magnesium glycinate and magnesium threonate. Those two, if you can find them at your local drugstore when you are stressed, overwhelmed, are known to help and improve sleep, which a lot of us are not getting enough sleep. That's also adding to this cascade of high inflammation, high heart attack risk, high stroke. Okay. Yes. Thanks, Kiki. I love. Okay, safe space comes from spending time with your friends, and make sure y'all friends not haters too, because some people be haters. So make sure y'all friend group is actually a real friend group, because then you're gonna be dealing with friend drama. I get that a lot in the office as well. Yes. Okay. How do you know if you have high cortisol? What symptoms to look for, and what test should you request at the doctor? So again, I'm an evidence-based doctor. So unless a person has Cushing syndrome, so that means that's a syndrome where your adrenal glands overproduce cortisol. And that syndrome, people have what's called a moon face, so they have like a wider face. Most of the time, they're very, very overweight and they really have trouble losing weight. Those are some of the signs of Cushing syndrome: higher blood pressure, more flushing, and more of a humpback in the neck. Those are indications that or cortisol is very, very high in the body. I typically don't check for cortisol. Number one, because cortisol is secreted in a pulsatile manner. So the only way you'll be able to assess an accurate cortisol is through a STEM test that you have to get at 5 o'clock in the morning. And again, my question as a doctor is always, how is checking this cortisol going to change management? If a woman comes in and I know she's stressed because I got to know her life cycle and understand her, me checking her cortisol isn't going to change anything. What I am going to look for though are markers like her A1C. Is her A1C, that's a measure of how well the body handles sugar, and it gives us an indication if someone's diabetic or pre-diabetic. Is this person insulin resistant now as a result of high cholesterol or high cortisol, excuse me? So when your cortisol is very, very high, the cells become resistant to insulin. Resistance to insulin leads to diabetes and pre-diabetes. So I look at those markers. Another thing that we should be checking, which I've been asking for tape measures in my office, but again, it's something that you can measure yourself, is your abdominal circumference. So whenever cortisol is high, your body is going to hang on to as much fat as possible. So that fat is going to particularly go in the stomach. It's called abdominal, visceral fat, and it builds up in the abdomen. So you check your waist circumference. So if you start to notice I'm getting more fat in my belly, that could also be a sign that the cortisol levels are high. Again, checking your blood pressure. I think every person, whether you have high blood pressure or not, should be checking their blood pressure at home at least once a week. You should know what your values are. You should be coming into the office with your levels and showing me those levels. Because if you can imagine, you're only in the office maybe once, maybe a couple of times a year, depending on what you got going on. I can't see a full picture. And it's best if I see it in your environment. I had another patient who came in. She was at work, worked a really high stress job. She had a stroke on her job. And when she would come into the office, her blood pressure was normal. And I had been asking her, check your blood pressure at home, check your blood pressure at home. She finally did just before the stroke happened, and her blood pressure was consistently greater than 150 over 90. I didn't catch it in the office because, again, I'm just checking a one time reading. So when you're able to track it at home and bring in your logs, we're able to get a lot more data from that. And I always argue to I ask patients, if your job is stressful, check your pressure at work. Because if you're spending 40 hours a week at work, you're spending most of your time working and not at home. So I have patients who I'll put on blood pressure medication just on work days and they come off on the weekends because their jobs are that stressful. All right. Thank you for bringing awareness. Of course, I am happy to. So, talk about the side effects of GLP-1s. Yep. So, let's back up a little bit. So, GLP-1s, all of us, we make GLP. GLP is a hormone that is secreted by the small intestine whenever you eat. You eat a meal, your stomach stretches, it sends a signal to the small intestine. The small intestine then releases GLP-1. GLP-1 goes to your brain. It tells your brain that you're full. Then it goes to the rest of your gut, your small intestine, your colon, and it slows digestion of food. So that's what happens normally in everybody because we all secrete GLP-1. GLP-1 in a person like that I just described is only lasting 2 to 3 seconds. So the half life is very, very short. The medications are effectively operating on that same pathway. The medications, most of them are once a week if you're on an injection, and daily if you're on a pill. So the half life is much longer on the medication, and it's pretty much activating that pathway. As a result, some of the biggest side effects I see, and I'm speaking about FDA approved GLP-1s. I'm not talking about compounded stuff. That's a whole different side effect profile that I see clinically. But for the FDA approved Wegovy and Zepbound, Zepbound is my favorite. It's GLP-1 and GIP. The GIP part of the Zepbound actually helps to burn fat. So you're burning fat cells in the most literal sense, and then you're also activating that GLP-1. So you're feeling full faster and you're burning fat with Zepbound. And when you look at the head-to-head trials, Zepbound is a far greater medication in terms of efficacy compared to Wegovy, but they both work very well. And everybody's body is also different, and medicine has to be individualized at this point. That being said, now that you understand how they work, some of the side effects can be nausea, constipation, diarrhea are some of the biggest three that I see in a lot of people. When we talk about the crazy, crazy side effects, I have seen some gallstones develop and cause acute cholecystitis. And I have also seen pancreatitis. So, pancreatitis is where your pancreas gets a little angry, irritated, and you can hurt in the abdomen section. Now, I have not seen a lot of the later two. And I think a lot of it is because people come in and some docs might start someone out and move them up very, very quickly. For me, we got to kind of slow roll the titration of these medications. And everybody doesn't need the highest dose. Again, I microdose these meds for a lot of women. It's a part of my menopause protocol, actually, because we know that when you're in menopause, the body does not want to hang, it doesn't want to let go of fat. And the reason is because fat cells make estrogen. So when your body is going through menopause and perimenopause, you're losing estrogen, which is a natural phenomenon. And as a result, the body's like, wait a minute. So you start hanging on to more weight and more fat as a way to get more estrogen in the body. I hope that explains it. I've also seen some hair loss in some women too on these meds. Not everybody. Again, we slow roll them. I think people come in and they lose 2 pounds and they're like, I want to go to the next dose. And we're like, wait a minute, you still got to exercise, you still got to control your diet. This is just a tool add on. And I think when we go too fast, I see way more side effects that route. But I think taking a little bit here and there for the right person for the right reasons is actually very beneficial. The GLP ones also are heart protective and kidney protective. So we're getting bang for our buck with these medications. Okay, let's see here. More intentional. What? Yep, eating and looking at the ingredients. Yes. How can I naturally increase my iron levels? I think the best way to do that is through food. Like the body doesn't make iron, so different diet in your food is also important in terms of increasing your iron levels. Should vitamin D be taken with vitamin K? This is a really good question. I love this question. So it depends on what your levels are. And like I said, nothing's generalized. Your doc, I'm not going to speak to y'all doc, but for me, I check a vitamin D level. If I have a lady and I know she's been taking her vitamin D and her vitamin D isn't coming up enough, I'll say, hey, let's add some K2. Now, if I have women over 65, because the risk of osteoporosis and bone loss goes up even further, I do have them take the vitamin D with K2. And the reason is because the K2 helps to guide the vitamin D where to go, particularly when it comes to calcium absorption into the bone. Because vitamin D also helps us absorb calcium through our gut. And so as a result, that calcium needs to know where to go and to go to the bones. And that's what K2 essentially does. So for me, I take some with K2 and sometimes I don't. But I check my vitamin D levels. And as long as for me they're above 50, I'm good to go, whether it's with K2 or not. But definitely as we start to age, lose bone, if you're a person that has fracture frequently, has a family history of osteoporosis, I argue you do need the K2. I think that when women are postmenopausal, perimenopausal, they should also do vitamin D with K2. Why? Because estrogen also impacts the bones. And when you don't have it, the bone architecture or structure starts to decline. So D with K2 becomes critical, in my opinion, in that subset of people. Yep. Magnesium. What's the best time to take it? I took magnesium and it makes me feel numb. Okay. So definitely looking at the brand. For me, I like magnesium glycinate to help with sleep and muscle relaxation at nighttime, at bedtime, to help kind of calm things down a little bit. There's also some data too, if a person suffers from migraines, that magnesium can also help with migraines as well. The problem with our diet, and again, going back to my natural statement, we're supposed to get magnesium from our fruit. Fruit, unfortunately, in America, when people get it, they ship it to us from other countries, they're pulling it off of the vines fast. That means that the fruit doesn't have time for the magnesium to absorb in it for us to then ingest it and our body do what it needs to do with it. So we're unfortunately at a loss with our food. And so that's why magnesium becomes an important nutrient as well. Yep. Can somebody drop in the chat supplements? Yep. And so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna record this talk, y'all, and I'm gonna send it out to you, and then we can definitely make a sheet. But oh, y'all got me. Okay, vitamin D. Yep. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So let's see. What about peptides? Are any of them good for hormonal things we're up against? So there is some data that suggests the peptides, which peptides are just amino acid, which is pretty much the breakdown of protein. So for me, this peptide space is kind of new. I question where stuff comes from because you got to remember too, in America, everybody trying to get to the bag, everybody trying to make some money. And I think that depending on where you get it from, a reputable company, and it's being, you have an appropriate oversight by a healthcare professional, I think it can be advantageous between the peptides and NAD plus. I work with a compounding company called Nucor Wellness. Nucor, that's NUCORE, and they give peptides and NAD plus. But again, I always go back to the original statement, and I'm very, very big on holistic too, but also foundational. So if you already on 10, you're not sleeping, you're not eating right, and you tired for those reasons, I think starting to address it from that standpoint before we go with all these supplements and IV medications, etc., will probably be the best route to go. Like, what are you doing? What can you optimize lifestyle wise before you do all this other stuff? I got people getting stuff. I had a lady come in, she was getting something from another country and taking it. And it just drove me crazy because how do you know what's in it? How do you know who formulated it? What if the lab wasn't clean? Like, how can you trust it? But people doing what they're doing because access again is crazy right now. But there is some data that suggests that peptides do help. So, how many milligrams of magnesium glycinate? So, the first thing I would do, Deandra, is I would have your doc check your magnesium first because you also don't want to overload on it. So, I think how much vitamin you take should be based off of your deficiencies. That's the first thing. And I believe with the magnesium glycinate, like Nature is made, I believe they have like a 200 milligram tablet. The 200 milligrams is supposed to be on the lower limit of the daily value. But I've seen people take just the lower limit of things and they come in and their levels are off the chain. So I always say start off with what your baseline is and then move the needle from there. All right. Next question says, what is an ideal average blood pressure? So most literature suggests that blood pressure should technically be less than 120 over 80. I kind of fall in the range of less than 130 over 80. But it also depends on if you got other stuff going on. So like if you're a person and your cholesterol is very, very high, I'm going to try to get that blood pressure as low as possible. If you're a person who's had a stroke in the past, I want that blood pressure less than 120 over 80. If you're a person who's had a heart attack, I want that blood pressure less than 120 over 80. So it depends on what you're coming in with, but for the most part, less than 120 over 80 is kind of like the average where you should be at. Okay. Yep. Is it true you lose muscle while taking the GLP-1? So I've seen people lose muscle, and I think a lot of that is because not necessarily because of the GLP-1. When you take a GLP-1, your drive to eat literally goes away. And so it's a lack of protein intake that I believe causes the hair loss and the muscle wasting that we see. So you should, I mean, a good number to call it is you can get on a scale, measure yourself in pounds, pull up on Google, convert that to kilograms. And you pretty much should theoretically be taking in 1 gram of protein per body weight of kilograms. That's kind of like your average, if you will, for protein intake. That's what I would say. Okay, so again, I'm gonna repeat that. Step on the scale, convert your weight, get your weight in pounds, convert that to kilograms. And you should intake at least 1 gram of protein per kilogram of weight. So that's the big and what happens is you take these GLP-1s, you get full, you have no desire to eat, and your protein goes down. And that's why I believe we're seeing it. And also, people come in, they start off exercising, but then this GLP-1 is making them lose weight like this. So they stop exercising. You still need to build up your muscle because the muscle is an active cell along with the GLP-1 to maintain your musculature. Yes, y'all are so welcome. And CMOS gel, it can be beneficial, especially for reducing inflammation and also helping the body, especially during illness. The problem with CMOS, and I've seen we're kind of correcting a lot of stuff from the pandemic. With the CMOS, I've seen people, a lady came in, she had been taking CMOS every day since 2020, so since the pandemic. So it was 2024 when I saw her. So every day for 4 years, she took CMOS. CMOS kind of activates, especially in the long term, it can activate the immune response because you're giving yourself this additional immunity. What it did for her, it almost caused a lupus like picture in her. Her inflammation levels were really high because remember, inflammatory cells can be harmful and they can be good. So you want your immune system ramped up, but you don't want it ramped up so much that it's now fighting your body. And that's what I've been seeing happen too in people post pandemic because we kind of left the doctor's office because we couldn't go in, we were scared, and we've been kind of home remedying without any proper oversight. So I've seen that happen in two different people since the pandemic. So I argue people should really be taking CMOS for a season. So for me, if a person has a lot of, they get sick a lot, maybe you have young kids or you're exposed to people who may be sick, I usually say taking it in the fall just before the weather starts to change and we enter into flu season to ramp up your immune system. It can be helpful. But again, that vitamin D, getting that in because that also helps the immune function, immunity, and reducing inflammation too. All right. Did y'all found this helpful? Should I do it again? Was I talking too much? Give me it. What y'all think? It was helpful. You liked it? This is the medicine I love. I love the one on one. I love the education. I love getting y'all together. I really do. I don't get to do this like this. And this is why I went to medical school. I don't get to do it like this in the office. So when I get to just one on one, we talk it through, we just be girls on the computer. This is where I thrive at. So I am going to definitely do this again. We got a lot of things coming down the pipeline. I'm doing a perimenopause talk with Charity Dean at the Rosa Cafe on April 24th. It's free. You're more than welcome to come to that. And again, check out my book, y'all. Click that link that said grab yours here. Grab it for yourself. I find that especially as we age and you're taking care of your parent, you don't know if they got blood pressure issues, whatever, whatever. So truly having your health information in one space that's not an electronic device that could be hacked is going to be king. Okay. So check it out, y'all. It's the Me First Health Record. And now that I have y'all emails, I will make sure to keep y'all in the loop with the different events we have coming up. Okay. So thank you, thank you, thank you for y'all time. I appreciate y'all. I'll send this out as a recording. And let's heal. Let's heal. Let's reduce our stress and let's heal. Good night, everybody.